Good morning. Today I want to share Luke 8, verse 6, which said, "Other seed fell on rocky soil, and as soon as it grew up, it withered away, because it had no moisture." I know that is probably an odd verse for me to share, but it was in a devotional today that really made me think of how my devotional life has changed and how changes I made over the years have really helped me to grow. I grew up in a Christian home, and we were at church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. And that was pretty much how I would hear about Jesus. And I would do, short prayers before my meals, stuff like that. But I really didn't have a devotional time. As I got a little older, I knew I'm supposed to do devotions, so I would do them here or there, but nothing very consistent. Then I started reading Our Daily Bread, which is a little devotional pamphlet, and you can also get the app for it, which is what I use now. And so I would do that. But again, it wasn't consistent. And my prayers would, be sporadic throughout the day, when I would think about it, when I would need something, when I was praying for somebody, but it wasn't consistent. Eventually, I realized at our church, they kept talking about journaling. And I had been at this point doing my devotionals a little more consistently, but not getting a ton out of it. And still my prayers were, sometimes I would remember, sometimes I wouldn't. Sometimes I would say them before bed, but I would fall asleep before I would finish praying. And so I began journaling. And that's really when my devotions just seemed to come alive more. And I started to, spend that time listening for God's voice. And it wasn't immediately, because at first, I was told you write down a verse that sticks out to you when you're doing your devotions and you journal it and, write about it. And so in the beginning of my journals, if you look back at them, you can see I was kind of like, this is what I think the verse means. Sometimes I would say, what I felt God saying to me about that verse or how I could apply it to my life. But now it's just, verses just seem to let me know, like this, God tells me this verse is for you this morning. And, I started to share on Facebook these short, encouraging devotionals. At the time, I just called my little daily devotional. I didn't really have a name for it. I would just have a verse and write a little something about it that I had felt during my devotional time God was saying to me. Sometimes my verses are just for me, and I know this isn't what I need to share, but another verse will stick out, and I'm like, and there it is. That's what God wants me to share, because I have learned that if you take time to talk to God, you can hear his voice, that he speaks in your spirit. Sometimes I will have a thought that comes to me and I'm like, that was not my thought, that was God speaking. And so, I have learned that my devotional time is important. Spending that time with God is important. It gives me that water, that moisture I need to grow. And so I now will get up an hour or two before I have to really be up, just so that I can spend the time that I need to, that God deserves, reading and journaling. And I have started to write, the first thing I write down in my journal is my praises. And then I write down my prayer requests. And then I usually will pray before I even start reading the Bible, because when I would wait till the end of my devotions, I often forgot to pray, because by this point I was a runner and at first I would run first and then do my devotions. But we had a sermon the one day that was, give your best, your first to God. And I realized I need to do my devotions first and then go for my run. And so there were times that I was out running and would go, oh, I didn't pray. So I would pray while running. So I have started to pray right after I list my prayer request, so I remember. But there are still times where I will go right into reading my devotions and something will hit me. I'll be convicted of something. Somebody will pop into my head or a situation, and I will just stop and start praying and just can feel God's presence in such a real, powerful way. There are times a verse didn't stick out to me. I would be done reading and I thought, was I not paying attention, God? I didn't get anything. What am I supposed to share today? And I would ask him, please show me what I missed, and go back, and a verse would stand out to me. Usually like one of the first ones, because I would sort of like, it was like him telling me, go back to this verse. And I would go back to that verse and reread it and go, oh, now I see it. Now I hear you. And so I like praying before I even start, because I remember to say, and God, show me what you want me to see. Tell me what I'm supposed to say. Show me what is for me and what is to share. There are times in my journal that I just am pouring out my heart to God on, if I'm upset about something or whatever. But I just felt like I needed to encourage you. And this is way too long. I'm sorry. But I just felt so strongly today that I needed to encourage you that if you are not doing daily devotions and you're not taking the time to pray and ask God for his help and to thank him for all the ways that he has been faithful to you, you may feel like you're withering because you're not getting that nourishment, that water that you need. So if you take time in the mornings, getting up a little earlier, and if you can't get up earlier, then do it, before bed, before you're too tired, and just allow yourself to focus in and listen for God's voice. Talk to him, be quiet and listen for him, and spend that time with him so he can water you and you can grow and blossom. God bless. Have a great day.